Whenever
Hi
you...
everyone, my name is Angelica Andersson, and today I will talk to you about social norms as a complex adaptive system. The plan for today is to first have a short introduction. What is a social norm? Then I will move on to why is it important for us to understand social norms and how they change. And then I will describe the concept of minority influence. And finally, we will talk about social norms as a complex adaptive system. So, what is a social norm? Social norms have long been studied within the social sciences, and according to them, it's a rule governing an individual's behavior that third parties other than state agents diffusely enforce by means of social sanction. And what this means in practice is that it serves a sort of basic social human function that helps us to distinguish who is in the group and who is an outsider. But despite the fact that it's so important for us, very little is known about how social norms emerge and how they can change. For example, one open question is whether the norm needs a strong leader that sets the new norm, or whether it can change organically over time. According to researchers within the social sciences, individuals who tend to innovate, they tend to be somewhat isolated from the rest of the group. But before someone else can take up this new norm, someone more central to the group with more connections needs to recognize this new idea to spread it on. And something that's important for us to consider as CAS students when we look at social norms and how they change is that it's in the interaction between individuals that changes in social norms can take place. So I just wanted to include an example of how social norms can change. And this is the example of drinking habits among university students. It's based on a survey made at the Fresno, California State University. And it's basically they realized when they did this survey that typical university students actually drink, they think that other students drink more than they actually do. So what happens is that our typical university student, he goes to a student party and he sees all the other students drinking, and his sort of worldview that university students drink a lot is reinforced. But then in order to fit into the group, he also chooses to drink more. But the problem with this is that he doesn't consider, for example, the students who are studying in the library or relaxing at home. So he gets a sort of faulty view of reality. And when he chooses to drink more, his friend, who is standing next to him, gets the same sort of impression that university students drink more than they do. So it's like a sort of feedback loop. And this is a bit problematic, of course, because the university, they don't want all of their students to become alcoholics. So in order to prevent this, they try to put up posters to inform students about reality. This one, for example, if you choose to drink, know this. 7 out of 10 Fresno State students consume 0 to 3 drinks, if at all. Or this one, Fresno State students party safely. Among students who drink, 8 out of 10 eat before and or while drinking. Or this one, thinking about drinking, know this, 94% of Fresno State students do not drink at a level that affects their grades. And this way of trying to change social norms by informing people about reality, it has been known for quite some time within the social sciences, and it's known as active norms management. You can also try to change social norms by changing the architecture, like the physical architecture. For example, if you want more people to recycle, you can build a recycling unit next to their home. Because studies have shown that if something that's expected of you is really easy for you to do, then it's less accepted by the people around you to fail to fulfill this duty, so to say. So you get a sort of group pressure trying to pressure you into doing the right thing. Another way of trying to change social norms is by introducing new laws. For example, in Sweden, a few years back, it was common to smoke inside, and then they introduced a law that said you're not allowed to smoke inside in public places, and nowadays it's very uncommon to smoke inside. And you can also use financial interventions. For example, if you don't have a ticket on the bus and they catch you, you have to pay the extra high fee to compensate. But there is a problem with all of these methods, and it's that they can all backfire, and very little is known about when they backfire and why. One known example of when the financial interventions backfired was at a kindergarten in Israel, where the parents were often late to pick up their child, and in order to prevent this, the kindergarten introduced a fee, kind of like the fee you have to pay if you get caught on the bus and don't have a ticket. But what happened was actually that the number of parents who were late increased instead of decreased. So after a thorough investigation, they realized that in the parents' mind, they went from thinking, oh no, I'm late, I have to hurry up to pick up my child because I feel so bad for the people working at the kindergarten, into instead thinking, oh no, I'm late, but I pay them extra anyway, so it doesn't really matter so much. It's really tricky to know when these things can backfire, and it's often very costly to actively trying to change social norms. So a lot of research is needed in this area to, in order to understand more about social norms and how they can change. And one example of where we need a change in social norms is in the case of environmental challenges. Because as you all know, today we have major environmental problems in many areas. And a common misconception is that the engineer will save us all. But there's a problem with this way of thinking, because even though the eco-product and energy efficient products are really great, there is a problem with the way we think. And in order to illustrate this, I included two posters. The one on the left is the environmentally friendly cigarette, and the one on the right is the environmentally friendly coffee maker. And like my first instinct, if I saw one of these pictures, for example the cigarette, at least if I was a smoker, then I would think, oh no, I have to buy this particular brand of cigarettes because I care about the environment, and I also want to show that I support the environment, so I have to buy this one. And probably something similar for the one to the right. You know, I have to buy this new coffee maker because I mean my old coffee maker is not green, and then I'm a bad person if I don't have the green coffee maker. But that's exactly the problem, because this little word, like I need to buy this, I need to buy that, it's not really sustainable, since we have a limited amount of resources. It won't work out in the long run. So in combination with green products and so on, we also need a change of social norms, a change of how we think. And another example of this is a comic made by Max Gustafsson, where the economic expert in the television says, what we need right now is to increase our consumption. And this is kind of senseless, obviously. But the problem is that our current economic system always needs increased consumption in order to not break down. And I mean, if it breaks down, then we have high unemployment, we have total chaos, and what can we do about this? I think it's a very good question for the future, but I will leave it as a sort of cliffhanger for someone else to take up that discussion. And I will move on to the subject of social norms. So how can social norms change rapidly? There's a concept called minority influence, which has been known for quite some time within the social sciences. It's when a small fraction of the population is really committed to their cause, and they can cause a major phase transition in social norms. And when I say phase transition, I'm sure many of you remember the courses we had last semester in simulation of complex systems and computational biology 1. And it actually has a strong connection to both of these two courses. So keep that in mind while I move on. But actual historical examples of minority influence has been, for example, the suffragette movement, who promoted women's rights to vote in the beginning of the last century. And also the American civil rights movement that actually started shortly after the African American population crossed the 10% mark. And throughout history there's been a sort of magical 10% limit. Basically, if 10% or more of the population is truly committed to their cause and refuse to give in, then you can see a major phase transition, this minority influence. So the question for us is now, can this magical 10% limit be simulated somehow? And the answer is yes, it can. In a paper made by C in 2011, they actually saw that in their simulations that a 10% committed fraction of the population can cause a major phase transition. So what they did was actually really similar to what we did in simulation of complex systems last semester in disease spreading, where we had, first we had the mean field equations. So in this case, they basically put up the mean field equations for the sort of density of opinions within the population, and they did a fixed point and stability analysis. But as you remember, you have to assume that the population goes to infinity, and it's not really clear if this is an okay assumption or not. So in combination with this mean field theory, they also used an agent-based simulation. And the agent-based simulation works like this. Agents have at most two opinions, sort of in their mind at once. And then they discuss one randomly picked opinion with their neighbor. And this opinion can change due to the discussion, except for the committed fraction. So basically, the committed fraction can talk to their neighbors, but they never change their own opinion. And this was done for a few different population sizes in order to see that they really are okay next to the mean field equations, and this was the result. So here you can see P is the fraction of committed agents, the ones who refuse to give in, and NB is the fraction of sort of antagonists, the ones who have the opposite opinion of the committed fraction after stability has found its way through the system. And you see here the mean field equation is the line, and the agent-based simulation for different population sizes are the different size dots. So you can see both that they seem to confirm history, which is good, that it's connected to reality, and also that they're connected to each other. So here we can see the 10% mark with the dramatic phase transition, and it's really great to see that they can have some sort of good results from this. So to summarize, today I talked about social norms as they have been studied within the social sciences, and then I moved on to how can we as CAS students look at these systems and try to simulate them. And I think actually that there are many areas within like the social sciences, like social norms, that haven't been investigated by people like us, but we still have a possibility to look at it with, for example, agent-based modeling and mean field equations and so on. So I think it's an interesting field. And before I finish, I just wanted to include a quote, something that Socrates said about change. He says the secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And with that, I thank you for your attention.